Today I was up in the loft and I came across a box of old computer parts, and here it is. You'll probably recognise some of these bits, but what I wanted to look at was the hard drives. I've got hard drives here from 1997 on the left through to about 2007 on the right. This one's got a massive 9 gigabytes of capacity, which was state of the art back then. But anyway, I'm going to take them apart. But wait, before I do that, take a look at the electronics on the back. Look how much more complicated the old one on the left is. Look at all this circuitry. But as the drives get newer, it's no surprise to see that the circuitry just gets less and less and less. Okay, I've got the screws out of all of them after a certain amount of effort. Lots of sticky tape around some of them to make sure they're completely sealed against dust and dirt, and also just to make it awkward, I think. So, which end shall I start? The old one or the new one? Let's start with this, which is the oldest one. And look at that. A thing of beauty. So it's got 4 platters. I'm not sure whether that means there are 4 read heads or whether, yeah, I think maybe there are 8. I don't know whether they read both sides of the platter. This is the motor that drives the read head backwards and forwards, and there's another motor in here that spins the platter. I guess this is just a bit of silica gel to dry, keep the insides dry, make sure there's no moisture in there. This is interesting. This is a little filter, and I expect the way it works is that as the disc spins, air circulates around, and the air that goes through that filter gets cleaned and mops up any odd dust particles that have somehow got in there, or maybe bits of disc head or disc, I don't know. It should all be totally clean when it's all sealed up, but there you go. Here's a closer look, and you can really see how nicely engineered the whole thing is. There's the motor assembly and the discs. You can see the coils in the motor there and the flexible connector that brings the signal off, and the head, which is really quite amazing and just floats on a cushion of air created by the spinning disc. So, fantastic piece of precision engineering. Seems a shame to chuck it, but there you go, it's old kit. This one, which says Hewlett Packard on it, it's a Seagate. I think this is a Seagate as well. And nice rubber seal to make it all airtight. And first thing we notice, it's a smaller disc. These two have the same capacity, by the way, and there are only 2 of them. So the technology had obviously moved on between these two, and they can now fit more data, although they've left space for more platters. Presumably on the more expensive drives you got more platters. Still a big chunky motor to drive the head backwards and forwards. Here you can see the missing heads and the missing platters. So definitely some evolution in the 2 years between those 2 models. And still lots of electronics on the back of that one though. So moving along to our next drive, we can see the construction is slightly different, the way it's put together, compared to the big casting on the other one. And this is, actually, I have to admit, I've messed up my chronological ordering at this point, because this is a 1997 drive, same date as the very first one. It's a consumer grade drive, and the other one was a SCSI, and when you compare the two, you can see actually there are some similarities, but this one has a slightly cheaper feel to it overall, not quite the same level of engineering. Let's apply some power to it and see what happens. It's alive! Well, I guess without a computer attached, it's not going to do anything very exciting. It's probably some sort of self-test that it's going through. But I like that so much that I'm going to try it again. This one's a Max Tour, and this is a little bit newer. Less electronics on the back, and again a rubber seal round there. And same sort of story, a filter, a bit of drying agent, silica gel. The head construction on this one looks quite intricate. You can see a flexible PCB's been used. Maybe that the head itself is printed on the flexible PCB. Mind you, this drive's quite a bit higher density than the previous ones. It's 80 gigs and just has 2 platters. And again, it's interesting actually. Looking at the sizes of the discs, these are the smallest, but these are the biggest. So they're not a completely uniform size. And then we get down this. Here we have 2000 and what? Let's see on the back whether it says. I can't see a date stamp, but I think this is around a 2007 disc. And well, we see only one platter, and the motor's been, for the arms, been kind of stripped down a bit. In fact, there's a big magnet in here which is part of the motor, and they've put it in the lid, I guess to simplify things. The other thing that they've done is they've moved the little chip that does the reading, presumably it's the amplifier for the signals coming from the head, and on these other guys it's here on the side, and they've just moved it slightly further forward, maybe to get better signal integrity, or maybe just because the whole thing's thinner they didn't have space on the side anymore. As we go in closer, you can see that the discs are held in place with a much simpler fixing as well, no bolts. Let's try powering it up and see if anything happens. And then that is obviously the future. A boring old SSD. Not a lot of exciting engineering in there, although obviously what's going on inside those chips is pretty amazing at the molecular level, but give me some nice bearings and precision engineering anytime. So there you have it, the insides of a whole bunch of disk drives, which are now probably going in the bin, which seems a real shame, but there it is.